Why should I make connections with the text that I am reading? So we have been learning about making text to self connections. And today we are going to focus on making text to text connections. So when you finish reading a novel or a short story, you spend time reviewing the key ideas and the elements that were used by the author. Okay. Then you may read another story using the same process. So let's say you read two stories. Okay, let's say Owen by Kevin Henkes. You read Owen. Okay. And then you read Alexander, the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Okay. So you notice that when you're reading Owen, the story is about two mice. Owen is a little mouse who drags along his blankie everywhere he goes. Okay. And you'll love that story. When you read Alexander, the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, it's about Alexander. This one's about a mouse. This one's about a person, a little boy. So when you read these two stories, you start to look at the pictures and you start thinking about the two stories and you're like, you know what? These two stories are very similar. They're both about having a bad day, okay? He thinks everything's terrible and he isn't supposed to be carrying this blankie anymore. He's too old. So to him, that's a terrible day. So you look at how they're similar. They're both about a bad day. But then you also compare the two texts. How are these two stories different? Well, this one, the neighbor, is constantly reminding the mom of the little boy, Owen, that he shouldn't be carrying that blankie. People are going to make fun of him. And this one is about a little boy who just feels the whole world is crashing down. So even though the two stories' themes are similar, they're very different. So when you make those connections, what is similar, what is different, you're making connections, okay? So why do you think this is important? Well, the main reason we make these connections is to become a better reader and a writer. Now, this skill isn't just for reading, okay? We're going to use this skill, making connections, for math, for science, for social studies, reading, writing, when you get old enough and you're going to get a job, all right? These are skills that just doesn't have to do with reading two stories. It's a skill that you are going to use throughout your life. You will not just read the material, but you're going to start to evaluate it. Okay? You're going to take it apart. You're going to look at it. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? How are the pictures? How is the story written? So, wow. Okay? When you think about, what we're going to be doing, in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, wow. All right? That's all I can say. Because as you start to read a story, you are going to begin to ask yourself questions. And then you're going to read to find out the answers. Text-to-text connections will make you a stronger reader and a stronger writer. And a more confident reader, because you're going to be thinking about the story the whole time you're reading the story. And then afterwards, you're going to think about the story differently and think about how it relates to other books, how it's similar, how it's different. So another way to make a connection between two different stories is maybe they're written by the same author. Okay. And you're like, okay, I love the story Green Eggs and Ham. I love the story about the Cat in the Hat. Just love them. But maybe you'd like to see how you're connected to the author. Okay. So you should spend time. Like if there's a certain author that you absolutely enjoy reading their books, you should take the time and check out the author. Like look up the biographies of the author or see what you can find online about what the author is like. Sometimes even on YouTube, you might find the author reading one of the stories that they wrote, which is so cool. Because then you can actually see the person. And a lot of times during those short videos, they're going to talk about why they wrote the book, and you can make a connection to the author. So one thing that we take notice when we're learning about authors, so that we can make connections to them and the stories that they wrote, we're going to look at, okay, are they a male or a female? How old are they? What is their background? Maybe our backgrounds are similar, like how we grew up, or, what we want to be when we grow up. Or, did they go to high school and then get a job? Did they go to high school and then maybe they went to college? Or maybe they went into the military. Okay, what did they do? Their background. What is their race or their culture? Were they raised Jewish, or did they have like a Christian background? Maybe they're Muslim. You never know. It's what you get to find out about the author. And it also might help you realize, like, when you start to make those connections, you're like, oh, that's why they write about that. Or that's why they mentioned that in their story, because they know a lot about it because that's how they grew up. And sometimes, if we're looking at different authors with similar books, we might find that the authors have absolutely nothing in common. Or maybe we find we have nothing in common with the author that we just wanted to learn about. And we're like, okay, I have nothing in common with them. There are many ways to find connections between stories and authors, and that's just, one thing that you can do to make a connection. But you might find it pretty cool if you can make a connection to an author. And what we're going to do in the next activity is we are going to learn some facts about Dr. Seuss. And in the next activity, you are going to make some connections of how you and Dr. Seuss are similar and how you are different. So you want to get out your whiteboard, or you can write in your reader's notebook. And as you listen to the story of Dr. Seuss, I want you to write down some things that you are like Dr. Seuss and how the two of you are different. Let's listen.
The Story of Dr. Seuss by Carrie Schutz. Who was Dr. Seuss? Dr. Seuss was a master storyteller. The man made mischief with a cat in the hat. He also created an imaginary town called Whoville. For more than 50 years, the doctor created strange characters and charming rhymes to make reading fun. Here's a fun fact. Seuss is supposed to rhyme with voice, not goose. The doctor never minded that people mispronounced it. A creative kid. Dr. Seuss was born Theodore Ted Seuss Geisel on March 2nd, 1904. He grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts. His family ran a successful business there. As a boy, Ted enjoyed reading books and comics. His mom's bedtime rhymes made him want to write funny poems. He also drew a lot. Many sketches were of animals at the local zoo. Here's a fun fact. One of Ted's favorite comics was Crazy Cat. The cat in the strip led Ted to create his own cat character. After high school, Ted left for college. He studied English at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. He became head editor of the school's magazine, The Jack-O-Lantern. This is when he first used his famous pen name, Seuss. Then Ted studied at Oxford University in England to become a professor. However, he soon stopped to focus on his art. Cartoonist and ad man. Ted moved to New York City to find a job. He drew cartoons for Judge magazine. Then he started to create advertisements. His most popular ones were for Flit Bug Spray. During World War II, Ted drew more than 400 political cartoons. He also made films and other training materials for the United States Army. Here's a fun fact. The Saturday Evening Post was the first big-time magazine to print one of Ted's cartoons. A published author. Ted was under contract for his advertising work. The agreement limited his other creative projects. Still, he had the freedom to publish for children. Unfortunately, editors rejected his book ideas over and over. Finally, And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street was printed. It had taken more than 20 failed tries for this to happen. Spreading a love of reading. In the 1950s, the United States had many struggling young readers. Some people blamed boring books. To respond, two publishers asked Ted to create a fun, easy read. Ted pulled words from a list for beginning readers. He used the 236 chosen words to write The Cat in the Hat. Kids and adults both praised the finished book. Here's a fun fact. A few years later, Ted wrote Green Eggs and Ham with only 50 words. Ted's silly approach to writing attracted readers. He organized simple words into clever rhymes. He even made up new words, such as nerd. Playful illustrations support his text and offer bonus detail. They let readers see the Grumpy Grinch, the Happy Who's, and the other interesting characters. Strong outlines, motion lines, and bright colors help everything pop off the page. Ted did not pack his books with text. Still, he found ways to say a lot with his words. Common themes include being good to others and yourself. Some of Ted's stories share his beliefs. He showed in Yertle the Turtle how a dictator is a villain. With the Lorax, he urged readers to care more about nature. Here's a fun fact. Ted received a special Pulitzer Prize in 1984 for his effect on reading. The magic remains. Ted passed away in 1991. However, his classics are here to stay. The books have a magic about them. They turn young children into book lovers. They push all readers to stand up for their beliefs. For years to come, fans will celebrate Dr. Seuss Day on March 2nd. Here's a fun fact. What Pet Should I Get was first published in 2015. Ted's wife discovered the work after his death.
So pretty interesting. All those facts about Dr. Seuss. He is not alive. He has since passed away. But I hope that you are able to make some connections with this author. So in the next activity, you are going to write down as many connections as you can, whether you are similar or you are different than Dr. Seuss.